but I want to talk about the interview I did with Dr. Nirav Pandya yesterday, which I thought he was just so interesting. And my 3 takeaways and what the Niners can do about how they can put his suggestions in action. So my 3 takeaways are: 1, you got to stop drafting and signing and trading for players with a history of soft tissue injuries. And I think the Niners did that for the most part this year. The guys they got more, Talanoa Hufanga has had concussions and shoulder issues, but he hasn't had soft tissue injuries. The soft tissue injuries are the one that keep reoccurring, the ligaments and muscles. And in 2019, the Niners' top 3 picks, Bosa, Debo, Jalen Hurd, all had a history of soft tissue injuries. It seems like the Niners already have fixed that issue. The other thing is that the doctor thinks that period in the offseason between January and May, and then again now between June and August, when players are on their own, is such a huge unknown variable because some players are working out too hard. Some players are working out not hard enough, and there's no consistency. So when they come back and all play together on a practice field, some guys are ready, some guys are gassed. That is a variable that teams can't control. So what they should want is to have players at the facility as much as possible. You should not be sending these guys home to work out on their own. That's when you can't tell which guys are sticking to the script or which guys are going off. So all the more reason not to cancel minicamp and OTAs a week early. You don't have to do explosive competition. You want players working out under your supervision, and your supervision should be prioritizing health and not getting people hurt in the weight room. So that's another one. You want as much time with the players as possible so they don't work out on their own. As much time working out under your supervision as possible, assuming that your supervision is good. And then the final one is the whole thing about the practices. I've never understood why Jim Harbaugh can have 3-hour practices with all that contact and not have a bunch of injuries in the offseason, but Kyle Shanahan comes in with 60 to 90-minute practices, no contact, and people go down all the time. I've never made sense to me. And I was saying this offseason, like there's got to be something about these practices that is too intense. And then people will say, well, he scaled them back this year. They were only 60 minutes long. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But then listening to Dr. Pandya, it's the other way around. The shorter the practice, the more intense it is a lot of times, because that just means there's more explosive running and cutting packed into a shorter amount of time. And when the Niners were doing these 60-minute practices this offseason, they would have basically 2 practices going at once. The Jimmy Garoppolo practice on one field and the Trey Lance practice going on another field. So basically the 2 teams split up, 90 players split up, and both sides cycling through plays rapidly. No halftime, no timeouts, just go in 60 minutes. It seems to me what the doctor's saying is if you want to cut down on the soft tissue injuries, do less explosive competition in the spring. There's not that much to be gained from explosive competition in the spring. It'll make players a little bit better. It'll give undrafted guys a chance to compete, but no one's making a roster based on some play they made in June. What you should be doing now that the season is 18 weeks long, 17 games, the spring should be about preparing your body for the long haul, not wearing it out. So it doesn't seem like you need to have a ton of explosive competition. You don't need to pack in all this running into 90 minutes. Harbaugh didn't do that. There was contact, but they were long, leisurely practices, especially in training camp. Those were 3-hour practices. I remember my legs would get tired. I remember how it was just standing there. So Kyle's already said he's not going to tweak his training camp schedule at all. He should. I've seen his training camp practices. They're 90-minute, grueling, explosive practices with no breaks or hitting. But it seems to me that the contact isn't really the issue here. It's the non-contact surgical injuries, the non-contact injuries that require surgery. And what you can do is have a little bit more contact, longer practices. Maybe do the same amount of work that you would do in 90 minutes in 2 hours and 45 minutes. That was basically a Jim Harbaugh training camp practice. 2 hours and 45 minutes. There weren't people going down with torn ACLs and pulled hamstrings. They had way more time. There were water breaks. There were lots of teaching sessions, and there was competition too. So I think longer practices with at a slower pace. would be a way for the 49ers to fix this issue. I mean, they have to do something differently in practice, and this is a good way to do it. It's a good suggestion. I understand Kyle thinking, shorter practices are the answer. No, I think longer practices are the answer. Longer practices in training camp, and in the spring, you want, I don't know if you want any competition in the spring, because the benefits aren't outweighing the injuries that you're getting. So focus on preparing your players to play, getting them all ready for 17 games in the spring. Strength and conditioning under your supervision, rest and recovery under your supervision, and then get them ready for long practices in August. I think that's a really good suggestion. So the thing about it is, a lot of coaches would take this suggestion and fix it. I don't know if Kyle's going to do it. He's already said he's not going to change his training camp, so we'll see. But it's interesting because I think we all know what the issue is, what the solution is, and who needs to make the fix. Let's see if he does it.